As you guys know, I have lots of dreams. I don't usually share them publicly. I do have dreams of things to come as far as like worldwide events, but this was something that seemed to be more in the future of after World War III hits and when the One World Order is already in effect and the system is already in place. So, what had ended up happening in this dream, you guys, I stayed the entire time as everything was falling apart, one of the people that did not comply. I did not go get whatever mandates they said. I refused to get in lines for to get a number or to get a barcode or whatever it was. I stayed strong in my I will not comply. And I stayed strong in all of my beliefs and my faith. And I knew that even though the world was falling apart around me, that I was going to be okay. And it got to the point where somewhere in this dream, I was caught. Whoever was running the world, somehow they caught me. And they ended up putting me in, I don't really want to call it a camp. It was like a compound. So it was like multi-families in one compound where we all had shared living space and we each had our own basic rooms with just a bed and maybe a small desk and a small nightstand. But as far as personal belongings, we really didn't have any. We had to stay within the complex, like within a distance from where we were staying. We had to get food from whoever was in charge. We had to get whatever commodities that we needed from whoever was in charge. And we had to basically work for these things to live. So if you wanted food, you had to go do this task. If you wanted medicine or to see a doctor, you had to go do that task. And it was really like they enslaved everyone that they caught. And most of the people that were in this compound were people that were of the I will not comply community. So we were still a family, we were still strong, we were still supporting each other and helping each other, but there were certain things that we had to do if we wanted to get food, and it was one of those things where you choose your battle. There was at one point that we were all sitting on the couch in this living space and we weren't allowed to have any TVs or radios or anything like that. There was no connection to the outside world or what was going on. We just didn't know what was even going outside of or going on outside of this complex. We were cut off from the outside world. We didn't know how many were caught. We didn't know if there were any people, survivors that were outside still of the I will not comply community. We just didn't know. We were left in the dark, basically. And when we were all sitting there discussing, kind of what we were doing, what we were going to do, if we were going to try to escape or if they were going to start complying, my name was called. And it was some sort of government official that had called me into like an office that was within this multifamily complex that we were in. So I had gone into this office and there was a government official sitting behind this desk and another gentleman standing next to him, just facing me. And there wasn't even a chair for me to sit down. I just had to basically go in and stand in front of this man that called me in there by name. And this man had given me 5 cards, like the size of playing cards, basically. And on this deck, each card had a different picture of a person. And on the back of this card was that person's information. So it had their name, their sex, their age, what or where they were currently, where they were from. Like it had all their personal information on the back of this card and then their current picture on the front of this card. And I was handed these 5 cards. And for some reason, I knew that these cards that they gave me also had some sort of like a tracking device built into each card, if that makes sense, almost like a GPS tracker that was built into these cards. And I was told that these 5 people that I had to turn them in, like give them this card, give the person, whoever was on that card, the card that was handed to me so that that tracking device was with the person they were looking for. Basically, I was going to turn them in kind of anonymously, I guess, if I wanted to live. I had to turn in these 5 people and give them each their own card so that they could be tracked no matter where they went, wherever they hid, if they ran off. I had to give these cards to them so that they could be tracked by these officials. And 2 of the people that were on the card were people that I knew, and the other 3 were people I didn't know. And one of the pictures was a child. And basically, every one of these people were people they were looking for because they were in the resistance, or they were in the I will not comply community, or they were causing trouble by preaching truth. They were going against the agenda. And I took these cards, and they basically told me that I had 2 days to make a decision, 48 hours to make a decision on if I was going to give these cards to the people so that they could be tracked and captured and killed, or if I was going to not do it and be killed myself. Okay. Well, I went out with these cards in my pocket, and of course, you couldn't tell anyone within your group that you had these cards because you would be killed on the spot. And I remember on the second day, I was looking out the window and I saw a car approaching the compound. And every time these cars came, they were bringing new people that they caught into the compound. And as I was watching this car pull up and these people get out, the people that got out was the mother and the child of who was on my cards. And this child must have been maybe 5 years old, 6 years old. And he was so innocent. And the mother was just trying to protect her child. You could just see it in her face that she had done everything that she could, and she felt like she messed up basically because she was caught, and she knew that it was just going to be really rough for her child at that point. So as they came into the compound, I continued to have these cards, and I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, couldn't talk to anyone about it. And I had to really think about if I was going to give up these 5 people, 3 of them that were complete strangers, or if I was going to basically stick with my faith and know that it was the wrong thing to do and basically give myself up to protect these 5 people. And at the end of the dream, I got called back into the office for my decision, and I told them that I was not going to do it. I was not going to turn these 5 people in, and that if they had to dispose of me, then that's what they had to do, because I was not going to do their dirty work for them. After that, I woke up. As soon as I told them I was not going to do it, take me instead. I know I'm going to be okay. God's got me. If you kill me, you kill me. I know where I'm going. I woke up. And when I woke up, it really made me think about how some of this has already happened, as far as, when they did the mandates before, people were turning other people in. They were turning their neighbors in on, if they weren't complying, if they were having parties when they were only supposed to have one person over and no people over. They were turning people in for not wearing masks. People were losing their jobs for not getting, the mandated vaccine. They were already starting to basically tell people that they have to do this or their livelihoods were gone. And there's quite a few people that stood their ground and they said that they're not going to do it. But is it going to get to the point, which I believe it will eventually, to where your life is in jeopardy if you don't turn somebody else in? And I think it will. I think it is going to get to the point where you are going to have to make a choice of if you're willing to turn in people that are innocent, that are just like you, that are just trying to make it, trying to get through these struggles, trying to help their children survive, or are you going to turn them in and watch these people get killed, tracked, tortured, mutilated, whatever they planned on doing, ultimately killing them, to include children that didn't choose to be here in the first place? So I think the reason I brought this dream to your guys' attention is because eventually it is going to get to that, you guys. We are going to have to make a choice. And I would rather have people start thinking about it now than get to that point in desperation, because people do crazy things in desperation. And if you draw your line now and you make your choice now, chances are you're already going to stick with it. You're already going to stand by it. and you're going to stay strong within it. So I know it was a short dream and it may not have made sense to some of you, but I felt it was important to give light to what could happen and somewhat what started happening as far as livelihoods being taken away, and how far are they willing to go to make people turn on each other. I'm not going to turn in innocent people. I'm not going to have someone else die in my place. I'm just not going to do it. You all may make different decisions, but that's something I feel you really need to look within yourself and think about. If it did come to it, what would you do? You know, they did in China too. They also locked them in their homes. They literally put 2x4s on their homes to keep them in there. You know, they're willing to go to great lengths to stop people from not for going against the agenda. They're trying to stop people from going against the agenda. They're going to stop people that throw wrenches in their plans. And I don't think that there's anything that they would not do to stop people. And eventually it's just going to get worse and worse and worse to where they're going to stop people, whether it be their food or their jobs or their cars or their homes. They're going to keep pushing. And the more we push and the more we stand strong, the worse it's going to get for us. You just have to stay strong in your beliefs. You have to not bend because you're desperate. You have to keep your ethics and keep your morals and keep your beliefs very strong, and know that we're all in this together. We're all going through the same thing. Some of us will bend, and I'm sorry for that. And some of us will get caught. We can't all not comply and get away. It's just not going to happen. Reality. But when you are caught, choose your battles and know what you're going to stand for. I couldn't see turning in anybody, especially a child who probably doesn't even know what's going on in the world, unfortunately. Which hill are you willing to die on? I'm not going to change who I am, you guys. I refuse to change who I am for anybody. I'm going to do my best to help people. And if I get caught, I get caught. If I have to go to work to get food, then I'll go to work to get food. But if I have to turn people in to survive myself, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to have that on my conscience, and I'm not going to become that person. I refuse. But there are battles you have to choose. These weren't police. These weren't military. This was like a whole other entity. This wasn't like a government department that already existed. This was like a newly created worldwide entity that had control over the people. All the people. They chose everything for you. They chose when you left, when you came home. They chose if you got to go anywhere, if you didn't, which if you did, they had to take you. They had to be with you. They chose when you got to eat and what you got to eat and how much you got to eat. They chose when you got to go to sleep. They chose when you got to shower. We didn't have a lot of personal belongings, so whatever we had for clothing on our back was what we had to wear every day. So I'm assuming they chose when we got to wash them, if we got to wash them. They made all decisions for us to control us. It was almost like being in jail. It kind of was like being in jail, only it was like a multi-family compound. 5 or 6 of us in this compound together from different parts of the regime, where we were all trying to get away and trying to escape and trying to hide. I mean, some of these people were hiding in the woods. Some of these people were hiding on boats. Some of these people were hiding underground, and they found them and they brought them to this compound where we all were. I don't even know where I got caught. I just know they got me. We didn't have anything. And I kind of think that instead of having cards, you guys, I almost wonder if they're not going to use our phones, which is why in the thumbnail I had her, the girl looking at the phone with the picture of the child looking into the crowd, because I kind of wonder if they're going to give us messages so that it's more secretive, I guess, so that we will have the information and the photo within our phones that won't get lost. You know, we won't misplace the picture, and somehow we send this to whoever it is, or I don't know how it works, but I would assume they would probably use our phones for secrecy to get us the information, almost like we're their free hitmen. Honestly, it's like we're their free assassins or whatever. And I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I do not have a timeline. I don't ever have timelines in my dreams. I just know that whatever government entity it was not what we have now. It was something newly created. I don't know if maybe with the one world government, if that is what is going to rise up to control the masses. It could be. It's funny you bring that up. Well, it's not funny, actually. It's not funny at all. As far as us as Christians, this war over in Israel actually worries me with that, because whether people realize it or not, a big part of that is a religious war. And the massacres that are going on, a lot of them have to do with the religious beliefs. And if those people get sent here, or if they're coming here and we don't bow down to their beliefs, they're going to take us out. So I believe persecution is already going to start based on this war in Israel. I pray that I'm wrong, but I have a feeling that is how it's going to start. So you guys that got to hear my whole dream, if you were caught, and I want you guys to really think about this, if you were caught and you were given these cards, whether you knew them or they were complete strangers, either way, would you be able to turn in these people to save your own life? And you have to really think about that, because you may be caught with your family. So you may be brought the choice of turning these 5 people in, even if they're children, to stay alive and stay with your family. Or you may be caught by yourself and your family is still out there. Are you willing to turn in these 5 people, or however many people? They could give you 2 people. Maybe you're given only 2 cards. Are you able to honestly have the conscience to turn 2 people in, knowing that they are going to get killed, to save your own life? Or those of you that are Christians, I'm going to ask you this question. Do you have enough faith in God that you will not turn these people in and know that God will take care of you? And if you're not Christian, are you able to, with a good conscience, turn these people in to save your own life? I mean, it's really something to think about. It's almost like that old scenario that they used to do. Do you kill one person to save the 5 on the train tracks? I mean, how many of you would honestly be able to kill, if you were in my shoes, how many of you would have been able to kill the 5 people to save your own life? I mean, if you saw a 5-year-old or 4-year-old or even a 2-year-old child coming into the compound because their mother was caught trying to escape with their child, and you had to turn in that 2-year-old that literally did not know what was going on, where they were, why they didn't have anything, where was their home, where was their dog, you know? Would you be willing to turn in that 2-year-old to save your own life? It would be a hard decision for some. It wasn't something that I honestly could make right away. I needed the 2 days to think about it. It was a lot of thinking, a lot of weighing, you know. I could live, but then these people die. And is it really living knowing that I killed these 5 people and still have to comply? Is that really living? Being forced to comply and continue to be used for their evil to kill people? That's not living. I understand it's not a decision that some can make now, but it is definitely something to think about. Part of building these networks is to survive as long as we can, to help each other survive as long as we can. I hope you guys got something out of the dream I shared. I'm going to be sharing some more on the member side. I have a bunch of them I need to put up, and I'm going to go back to my original ones and start feeding those in. It's kind of scary because as I'm watching the news, I'm starting to see a lot of them come to light again based on what's going on overseas. Some of them are shorter than others, but I usually dream in very detailed pieces, just not time frames. But now that they're coming to light, I'm going to start sharing those, but I'm not sharing them on the public side. This is probably the only one I will share on the public side. As always, you guys, be safe, love each other, be kind to each other, pay attention to your surroundings, especially right now with all the people coming across the border. You don't know what their intentions are, whether it be for mass disturbances or for individual criminal activity. Pay attention. Be ready to protect yourself. Don't put yourself in a situation where you could be harmed. Keep learning skills. Know that God's in charge. He's got us. He's with us. He will never leave us. Even if it comes down to us putting our lives down, eternity is way better than this. Good night, you guys. Much love.